Oh my goodness. Fife's Restless Homeowners. The 6-year, 44-week itch in the Fife housing market. Whatever's going to happen with first-time buyers and when people move, I do not know. QVT! I was fair enjoying that music. Nice wee intro. I was dancing away there. Richard, wow. There's 28.4 million households in Britain, of which 17.7 million are actually owned and worth a total of 5.1, not billion, trillion pounds.
Okay.
5.1 trillion.
We actually have the exact stats number, but I didn't think you were
comprehend that. Well, 5.127,807,837,600 trillion.
I didn't know if you were going to attempt that or
just
not.
to put it precise. Just to put it precise for anybody's got any doubt about that exact number. In case somebody comes on and goes, that's no 5, it's 5.27 trillion.
Yeah, and then when you add that, add that with all the private rented homes and then council houses and things, that figure could reach well over like 8.5 trillion, which is a crazy number to think about.
That's a weird word. I tell you what, though, when you look at some of these PLC companies, like Amazon and stuff like that, the $1 trillion companies, it's like, wow, when you see that figure. And you see, literally, these companies are worth. Some of these companies are almost pointing to the point where they're worth just as much as the whole UK housing stock.
That's when you think about it in monetary terms. That's
weird, eh?
Yeah,
that's definitely weird. That's absolutely unbelievable statistic when you look at it. Over the last 6 years, though. Let's look at that. 76,669 UK properties have sold each month, meaning the average British homeowner moves every 16 years and 7 months. That's actually quite surprising because it used to be, before the credit crunch, it used to be about 7 years. And then the credit crunch came along and everybody stopped in their tracks and all the transactional numbers dropped like a stone. And it's kind of never recovered in terms of transactional numbers. But the market has come to an equilibrium anyway to accommodate for that. And in terms of employment, in terms of the resources needed to facilitate that actual market transactional number.
So that shows that people are staying in property, longer than what they did without feeling the need to move.
I wonder why that is. Well, this data just proves a standard theory that British neighbourhoods are becoming more fleeting and transient in terms of what it is. On the face of it, they show that once you have bought a property you can call home, there isn't really much motivation to move again.
Yeah, and that would kind of resonate because I think really people need to have drivers in order to make them move. And if there's that driver's not there, and then they will stay put. And then that obviously means then fewer people are actually moving home.
Yeah. So why are fewer people moving home? And could it be attributed to a sense of contentment or indifference to moving home?
Yeah.
While we might actually love our Fife home, let's just call it Fife, or it could be UK home, whatever.
Yeah.
Most of you, including myself, still want to better ourselves with a bigger house, better area, etc. Which typically requires us to actually to climb this property ladder or whatever you call it.
And that's the drive. Then that's the driving factors that'll make people make that decision to move. Like whether it's a better area or a bigger house, or these are the things that push people to then think, right, okay, I'm going to upsize or relocate.
I'm going to put my old person's hat on.
Okay.
And I'm going to say most of the youth today want to live in a bigger house. It took their mother and father almost 40 years to acquire.
Yeah.
and they want it today. Microwave society, ping!
Yeah.
I want it now. I want it as much as possible. I want it as big as possible, and I'm going to mortgage everything up to the hilt. That is not the strategy to use if you're wanting to, for example, we've got the wealth creation show. That is definitely not the strategy you use for wealth creation. Definitely not. You live within your means and you buy what you can afford. That's what you do, and that's how you go forward for it. I mean, as I said, while we might love our first home, we will always want this bigger house. Everyone remembers, well, you'll probably not remember, the 1980s.
Well, I was born in the 1980s, so...
You'll not remember it, though, really?
No.
You don't remember the songs and the nightclubs and the disco. I remember all these things because that was my era. So, you know, my age remembers the 1980s when we had a booming property market as a backcloth. British homes moved every 7, 8, or 9 years. So now, with the average just over 16 years, this means that each British homeowner is moving around 2 or 3 times in their adult home ownership lifetime. Maybe we should rename all our houses Dunroman. Okay, so we've all heard the phrase lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah, I talk about this all the time, don't I? It's the way to manipulate it. In fact, the Chancellor was on the budget the other now, doing exactly that. It's how can they get away with saying the statement that the National Health Service has had more doctors and more nurses than ever before?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Did I miss something here? Because it can't be. But it's true. It's lies, damn lies, and statistics. You can easily manipulate anything. Statistics mentioned above conceal some astounding features of the British property market itself. You know, what we've talked about just the other now. When British homeowners entered their late 50s and early 60s, their inclination to move drops tremendously. My mum and dad was like that. And I'm like, why do you know downsize? And my dad went, my mum used to go, where am I going to put all my furniture? And my dad used to say, well, I've probably not got long anyway, so I'll just stay where I am.
Well, that's the exact same. Too much stuff and too comfortable.
Yeah, that's it. It's the prospect of actually taking that leap in their mind about everything they've got to decant out the house and that you know, all that stuff. So the average length of time a homeowner without a mortgage moves home. This is a homeowner without a mortgage. This is usually the elderly population, which is in their 50s and early 60s, moves home. It's 23 years and 3 months. So the average time, and just any homeowner moves, is 16 years. The average time somebody without a mortgage moves is 23 years. And around 7 out of 10 outright homeowners without a mortgage are 65 years and older.
Are in that higher age bracket,
Yeah. British homeowners with a mortgage move on average every 9 years, 11 weeks.
Okay.
Where's the psychology behind that? You understand what I'm talking about? It's like, you know, because you've got a mortgage, then you'll move more than without a mortgage.
Yeah, so that's definitely in the mindset of the person because of their circumstances, and that's what's the driver there, because of the mortgage circumstance, probably.
I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to reveal the fact that the ones with the mortgage are obviously a younger population, and therefore they're looking to have that big family home to upsize to. Yeah, okay. So let's take on from here. Whilst we cannot determine who has a mortgage and who doesn't, I can actually look at how quickly people move in Fife. And I've looked at the last 40 property sales in Fife and found some interesting findings. You know, you've got them there as well, Richard. So
I was just going to say, do you want me to kick off with these?
Yeah. What is the findings about the average Fife homeowner?
So the average Fife homeowner moves on average 15 years, every 15 years and 23 weeks. So remember, the UK average is every 16 years and 7 months. It gets fascinating when you really delve deeper and look into these stats. So there seems to be like a 2-speed, even a 3-speed in the Fife property market. And remember, we said in the title that it was 6 years and 44 weeks. So,
Yeah.
as you said, Jim, having looked at the last 40 Fife property sales, and put them in order of how long they have been in that home before they moved, with the fastest first and then the slowest to the end. So let's do that. So
Okay.
when we look at the 25% quickest home moves in Fife, i.e. that's the 1st to the 10th, and then the next slice would be like the 11th to the 20th quickest movers.
Okay.
These 5 movers are moving home really fast, yet the gap for the successive 2 slices broadens remarkably, i.e. the slowest movers. So let's break it down for you so you obviously get a better idea of this. So the quickest 25% of Fife homeowners, that's the 1st to the 10th, move every 2 years and 46 weeks. Now that's a really quick move. Okay.
That could only be first-time buyers.
It would have to be, yeah, because I mean every couple of years. I mean, if you're moving at that rate, then it's the younger, probably more than likely the younger population, the very younger population, who are first-time buyers.
So what's the next fastest quartile?
So the next, that's the 11th to the 20th of Fife homeowners move every 10 years and 41 weeks.
Okay.
So that's probably, and that's more than likely going to be people a wee bit higher in the age bracket and probably moving to their second home, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. The following 25% quickest quartile, which is the 21st to the 30th amount, of Fife movers is every 20 years and 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see, and it's probably progressing on for there as well. And finally, the 25 slowest in the quartile, which is like the 31st to the 40th, which is Fife homeowners who move every 27 years and 36 weeks.
Yeah, I could imagine that'll be me, because I'm 57 just now, and I've got a sneaking suspicion it's probably going to be 65 before we finally downsize to our bungalow. I think that's going to be the case. So I will have lived in this house for round about, about 30 years.
Yeah, and it might
surely.
She's been in 34 years, 32 years or something, do you know? And it's like, so it's that point in life.
My life just flashes before me.
But that's,
So looking at the top 50% of the quickest movers, the top 50% is the earliest ones. Half of the Fife homeowners move again within 6 years and 44 weeks. That's where we're getting that start from.
Yeah.
It's because it's an average. It's an average. So the first 50% move within 6 years and 44 weeks. Yeah, okay. So let's look at this in a quick graphical form so we can see a bit more about this. So here we are here. So you have the top 25% just there at the top left-hand corner, 2.9 years. You've got the next 25% of Fife homeowners, 8.10 years. The next 25% group is 20. 10.8. And put my brain in gear. Next 25% of Fife owners, which is the 75% group, is the 20.4 years, and the slowest, which is probably me. Everybody in the bigger house, and the next house is probably going to be a downsize, is staying on average for 27.7 years.
Yeah, that's quite a good chart, that, because it clearly demonstrates, like we were talking about visual learners and things the other day, Jim. You could clearly see there in the 4 quarters the quickest movers to the slowest movers, and how it breaks down there. I've broken it down into certain areas for Fife if you want to go through that as well.
Please do.
So let's look at the Leavenmouth area, which is obviously KY8. So if we look at that first quickest 25%, they're moving every 2 years and 46 weeks, which is
can we do the what areas have you got? You broke down. What areas do you have?
So I've got Leavenmouth, I've got the Cooper area, I've got St Andrews, and I've got Glenrothes as well.
Yeah, and I don't think there was enough data to actually.
There wasn't enough data to pull together.
East Nuke's got smaller amounts of properties, so it would skew the figures. So the first group of 25%, across these groups, I would love to compare them. So what years are each one?
Right. So Leavenmouth area, KY8, is 2 years and 46 weeks.
Okay.
The Glenrothes area is 2 years and 5 weeks.
Okay.
Cooper area is 2 years and 20 weeks.
Okay.
And then St Andrews is 5 years and 10 weeks.
Wow. So St Andrews is probably a lot to do with the price point. and the fact that it's cost prohibitive to actually move so early because stamp duty. You know, when you look at land and building transactions tax, you're getting into a price point in St Andrews where it's prohibitive. You know, we're staying such a short period of time, the stamp duty you've got to pay in order to buy your next property, more than likely. And I think that's what makes the difference. And the stamp duty you had to pay to buy the existing property. So you have to alleviate it. You know, you have to spread it over a longer period. So it's double the amount of people. The people are in the first 25% category of home movers are actually probably first-time buyers, are actually staying double the amount of time almost in St Andrews purely because of the price point. What is the next 25% after that?
Next 25%, and I'll just keep it in order. So Leavenmouth is movers move every 11 years and 15 weeks.
Okay.
Glenrothes is every 9 years and 26 weeks.
Right.
The Cooper area is every 8 years and 15 weeks.
Wow.
And then St Andrews is every 12 years and 46 weeks.
Okay. Naturally, I've thought to myself that St Andrews was going to double, but it wouldn't really, would it? Because it goes back to saying then, it kind of gives me some confidence in the fact that I was right in saying that it's a lot to do with the initial stamp duty involved in it.
Yeah, and the affordability for the people that are in that first quartile.
Yeah. Okay. So the next quartile, so the third quartile is what?
Third quartile. In the Leavenmouth area, it's 20 years and 15 weeks that movers move. The Glenrothes area, it's every 18 years and 20 weeks. And then Cooper is every 14 years and 41 weeks.
Yeah.
And then St Andrews is 19 years and 26 weeks.
Wow. This then tells me that as an estate agent selling houses, you're literally going to have to wait another 10 years or more before you actually get back in front of the person you originally sold the house to in the first place.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I mean, good reputable agents will build that rapport with clients for life. So in order, and if you've sold to them, and then obviously you're going to sell again, hopefully, if you've been a good agent. But then looking at this, you're going to have to wait a while. So that's a long relationship to keep a hold of.
Yeah, not sheep though.
Relationship.
I watch how you say that.
Yeah.
So when looking at the properties that fall into the latter bands, the ones that don't move or sell so often, they tend to be larger properties where the homeowners have lived for 30 years plus. That could ring true, like places like Ferguson Place in St Andrews, and Spottiswoode in St Andrews as well. And then you've also got the Links and Leven and East Links. Very, very rarely. I mean, some people have lived there. I mean, look at my mother and father since I was 11. So when I look at that, that's 45 years, 46 years almost.
That's a while.
Yeah. So 46 years. That life flashes before your eyes. So we should all learn that once people get into their 50s and 60s, their tendency to move drops significantly. This means that properties on the lower runs of the Fife property ladder sell more often as younger homeowners occupy them. Yet, once Fife homeowners get older, their inclination to move home diminishes. And this obstructs younger Fife generation wanting to buy bigger Fife homes from these mature homeowners that are actually living in them. There's a disruption, eh?
Yeah.
So that means if the younger Fife homeowners, because that's effectively what it is, are moving every 3 years, they can't find a property to move to because the older Fife homeowners aren't moving and selling. So therefore, that's where the demand for new builds coming from. Especially
things like bungalows and properties like that will allow people, that will facilitate people to downsize.
So let me think about that then. So because it takes double the amount of time for the next. So it's 50-50, but it's 20 years and 27 years for the two latter quartiles, the 50%, and it's 3 years and 10 years or 11 years for the 50% before that. So the first 50% are literally having to go into another property before they actually get access to the existing, the latter 50%'s properties.
Yeah.
That then gives me a thought process about, is there going to be a disparity later on with all these new builds getting built and all these existing homeowners are moving so quick into the new builds,
Yeah.
and theirs is getting taken up. And the fact that when the next 50% and the one in their older years eventually finally move, they're maybe going to find somewhere to move, but then nobody's going to move into their house.
I was going to say, but they're not going to have the buyers. Like
Yeah, they're not going to have the buyers because the buyers have already bought already.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, at some point in time, there's going to be a very limited market for these types of properties. The ones that have been starting for about 40 years.
Do you know, and that's where looking at and having stats and looking at things like this could help you paint a picture or kind of predictions of what is to come and what the market could potentially end up with.
I usually call it mega trends. You know, the mega trends of the future and exactly what's happening in terms of the housing market and where is the true dynamics of what could come on later on. The knock-on effect. You don't see it coming, but over a period of time, it subtly creeps up on you, and eventually it hits, and then you go, wait a minute, we've got an oversupply of huge family homes all of a sudden. Nobody needs them anymore. So you'd find that market could, I wouldn't use the word crash,
That'll have a big effect on the value.
There might be some sort of correction in the valuation later on. So there might be a finite point at these property values we'll be able to go up to, whereas flats and standard terrace houses might actually still remain quite popular between the younger generation.
Will perform quite well, yeah.
Yeah. I got it right, didn't I? I'm talking about for anybody listening in, I'm talking about my portfolio, because that's the type of profile property I actually buy. So, you know, that means that I was exactly right in buying that sort of property profile in terms of my portfolio stock.
And thinking about the longevity of it as well.
Yeah, because I've always thought that. I've always thought they're good, they're lower price value properties, but they're really mint condition inside. But the great thing is they're easy to exit from because they're low value, and it would have a bigger audience for the properties themselves, if not another buy-to-let landlord or somebody that wants a second home.
Yeah, although,
we're going to get to a point, Richard, where we're not actually allowed to say second home without offending somebody.
Yeah, probably. The thing with those, not to deviate too much into buy-to-let and investment things, but the thing with those types of properties as well, you're not just restricted to one kind of captive audience. You know, they're good family homes, they're good for working professional couples, and you know, there's a mixture of people that they appeal to as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, what's stopping the older generation homeowners from selling up and downsizing to free up their family homes that desperately need them? Well, as we said before, it'll be apathy, won't it?
Yeah,
it will be the apathy, and some will be holding on to their homes because they brought up their families in it. So
there will be
emotional ties.
You've got to say there will be a lot of that, and we see it so often that people don't want to leave the family home that they brought their kids up in, or they've lived in for 30 plus years, and they've got that attachment, and it could be very difficult. And some people just won't until the day that they obviously die. I mean, that's how strong their emotional connection is to the property. But in that time scale, they're holding these properties back from being able to be back into the market.
And some are just completely burnt out and frazzled at they've just not got the energy anymore.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, but the stats show that around just over 50% of owned homes in the whole of Britain have 2 or more spare rooms. 2 or more, not just 1 or more.
That's quite interesting as well, eh? 2 or more. So all these older generation out there holding on to these homes with these extra bedrooms. There's no fair on the younger.
Well, that's a lot of spare bedrooms, and it works out at least, I think it's just over 15.5 million spare bedrooms. Not spare bedrooms.
Could you imagine then if all these people actually put their spare bedrooms into rent a room scheme?
Well, if you think about the homeless situation, and not just Fife or Scotland, the whole
there'd be no homeless situation.
Yeah, I know.
It would never exist. The homeless situation would be solved overnight. The refugee situation, you know, whether you've got a political opinion or not, would be solved overnight.
Yeah,
there wouldn't be an issue anymore. We wouldn't be saying that there's people staying in the street. Obviously, the difficulty is you've got to deal with somebody's lifestyle choices and lifestyle, the way they lead the lifestyle as well. Hence the reason why that doesn't happen. That's why people obviously choose a car rather than actually taking public transport. You know, on occasion, I've heard that before. So as a country, we need to change how we can support older homeowners and selling and selling their large, underutilized homes to allow them to house younger families badly needed, which badly need them.
Yeah.
Some people actually suggest tax breaks. I wonder if anything's happened in the budget today, and we'll soon find out because we're going to do something on that if it's to do with affecting the housing market.
Yeah.
Yet the government aren't in the mood to give the massive tax breaks to people who would tend to be their existing voter base. Much of it really comes down to not finding the right home to move to for that older generation. They just can't find. It's like what you said in the beginning, Richard. They can't find possibly the bungalows to downsize to because all the bungalows are taken right now, and house builders tend not to build bungalows because they're not as profitable as building two-story houses.
Yeah, definitely. And that is, and we do need to really look at how we are going to, in the future, or now really, continue to support these older homeowners and help facilitate them to be able to downsize to then alleviate the situation we've got in housing.
Mm-hmm.
I think also as a nation, we have seen, and we'll probably continue to see, a lot of socio-economic and demographic changes. And that's coupled together with a rising elderly population. People are living longer. So it's not just about how many homes we build, but whether we are building the right kind of homes for the older generation, like I say, the bungalows and things that are more suitable to their needs and what they want or need to move into. You need to think about that.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting times ahead for the Fife property market and the UK property market overall. And really, what I would say to most, if you're a mature Fife homeowner, for example, in a large home and are afraid to move because you can't find one, then just reach out. Don't hesitate to contact us. You know, we can only give you the facts and advice, and then left with you with an informed decision. Classic example is I spoke to a gentleman yesterday. It was in one of my circle of acquaintances, and he actually says to me, "Look, I'm going to be moving in spring next year." So he says, "But I've got a lot of decanting to do and decluttering in terms of what I've got in the house." So he says it is going to take me about a year, but he says I want it to take a year because I really didn't want to put myself under pressure. So he's getting me out in the next couple of weeks just to talk about what the valuation would be, so he knows where he stands when he does put it into market, round about the price point where it is when he does go to market in about a year's time. And that's what I think most mature homeowners should actually do. They should actually get their bids way in advance, and they shouldn't leave it till last minute, because the last minute is just not good planning, fiscally wise and financial. So on a fiscal and financial basis, it's just not good planning at all, especially if you're sitting in a house and it could be like 900 or 8 or 900,000. I know inheritance tax doesn't kick in for certain things because it's your principal residence, and some of it goes to your children as well, tax free. But you've still got your estate planning as well, because you could have other investments outside of that. And because you've paid off your mortgage, you more than likely will have that because you'll be putting that money into somewhere else. So I think it's good, prudent practice for the older generation to actually look at their financial circumstances and reassess where they are right now with a proper valuation of their house and know where they are, because then they could plan for the future to move when they want to. Don't be in a position. My advice is don't leave it till you're in a position where you're forced by your circumstances. In other words, you're pushed by your circumstances because all of a sudden, knee problems, hip problems, joint problems, you can't manage the stairs. And you don't have one level living downstairs, so you have to use the stairs, and then it becomes a problem. And then at that point, you don't know what the housing market's going to be like. You don't know where inflation is going to be. You don't know where unemployment is going to be. You don't know where interest rates are going to be. So that could affect your overall housing market and your buyers' demand as well. Therefore, your house price could be a different figure, and you might have been counting on your house price being at a certain figure in order for you to retire and sell off and downsize. That might not happen anymore. So that's why you're better to get the advice sooner rather than later if you're an elderly person. That's all I can really say.
That is really good advice, because I think as well there'll be a lot of people that may be sitting and thinking, "Man, I know what my house is worth. It'll be fine. When I need to sell it, I could sell it." But then, how do you know how much it's worth? Who told you how much it was worth, or did you just kind of That's how much I think it's worth. It's best getting a professional in to tell you exactly where you stand and what your value would be, and have that plan in place, like you say.
I've had people say, I think, oh, what do you think it's worth? Oh, I think my house is worth 800,000. I went, well, next door sold for 6. And it's
So
exactly the same as yours. It's exactly the same as yours. There's 200,000 I've just wiped out in one sentence. Next door sold for 600,000 a month ago. It's a no-brainer, right? But people don't realise that, so that's why they should take the professional advice and opinion overall. Final words on this, Richard. What would you say to anybody out there?
What I would say, obviously, these stats are quite good to go through and really give you a good picture of how the market is, not just in Fife, but in the UK as a whole. And obviously, with the issues that we've come up against there about, obviously, properties that are suitable for people to downsize and things. Do you know, we talk about the solutions, and they all seem fairly simple and straightforward. They maybe aren't always. And if you are in a situation, then, like you just said, Jim, speak to the right people, speak to a professional, and have a plan in place.
And that's us. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Richard. Anybody else has got any questions later on, please feel free to stick some in the comments or message us direct. Until next time, guys, it's been Fife Properties TV. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Jim.